The movie begins with Yelina, who is now working as a cleanup agent. She stands alone on a rooftop, quietly reflecting on the darkness she feels inside herself. Without hesitation, she jumps down onto the roof of the Ox laboratory and immediately begins her mission, silently taking out the guards stationed around the building. Inside the lab, two scientists have already been transformed into strange shadow-like figures, but Yelina doesn't notice them. Another scientist approaches her and tries to explain what has happened inside the facility, but she ignores him. Instead of listening, she completes her assignment by destroying the laboratory and wiping out all the evidence. After finishing the mission, Yelina reports back to Valentina. Meanwhile, Bucky is now serving as a congressman. He is involved in a political effort to remove Valentina from her positions as the CIA director and the leader of the Ox Group. During a congressional hearing, Valentina is accused of abusing her authority by using the super soldier serum to create enhanced individuals through a secret program known as the Sentry project. Congressman Gary questions her about these actions, but Valentina quickly shifts the conversation. She reminds everyone about the former president who turned into the Red Hulk and nearly caused a catastrophe. According to her, the Avengers are no longer around to protect the world, and that is why the Ox Group is necessary to deal with new threats. Later, realizing that the political pressure against her is growing stronger, Valentina tells her assistant Mel to eliminate all remaining evidence connected to the program. She also asks whether the cleanup agents have received their next assignments. Mel confirms that they have, except for Yelina, who refused her new task. At the same time, Alexei, Yelina's father, is now living in the United States. Most of his time is spent watching old footage of his past as a Soviet super soldier. Reliving the days when he was admired and powerful, Yelina eventually visits him and asks what he has been doing since they last saw each other. It quickly becomes clear that Alexei hasn't accomplished much. Yelina then asks him what it really meant to be a super soldier and whether any of their missions truly mattered. Alexei tells her that nothing compares to saving lives. He explains that her sister Natasha understood that truth and chose to make a real difference in the world. After leaving him, Yelina calls Valentina and asks for a mission that will attract public attention. Valentina agrees, but sets one condition: Yelina must complete one final cleanup assignment first. The following day, Yelina is sent to eliminate someone who is planning to steal classified information from Ox Labs. She tracks the target to a secret warehouse. Once inside the building, she discovers files connected to the Sentry project. As she looks through the documents, she suddenly hears footsteps behind her. John Walker appears and immediately begins shooting at her. It turns out that John's assignment is to kill Yelina. The two quickly engage in a brutal fight. Before either of them can gain the advantage, Antonia suddenly arrives and attacks John. Her mission is to eliminate him. Moments later, Ava appears as well. When Yelina sees her, she steps in to fight because Ava is actually Yelina's assigned target. At the same time, Ava's mission is to kill Antonia. Soon the warehouse turns into complete chaos as all four of them fight each other, each trying to complete their own assignment. Eventually, when Antonia is about to kill John, Ava steps in and kills Antonia instead, completing her mission. Right then, a man named Bob suddenly appears out of nowhere and tries to run away. But before he can escape, all the exits of the warehouse suddenly seal shut, trapping everyone inside. Bob nervously introduces himself to the group. That same night, Valentina hosts a luxurious party in order to maintain her public image despite the growing political pressure. Congressman Gary attends the party and quietly confronts her, warning that she cannot hide the truth forever and that everything will eventually come to light. Valentina dismisses his warning and keeps her composure. Shortly afterward, Bucky arrives at the party. He pulls Valentina's assistant Mel aside and tries to convince her to testify against Valentina. He argues that she still has a chance to do the right thing. Mel looks uncomfortable and refuses to cooperate, attempting to walk away. Before she leaves, Bucky gives her his card and tells her to call him if she ever changes her mind. Back at the warehouse, Yelina and Ava begin analyzing the situation. They slowly realize that they have all been set up. They are now loose ends, evidence of Valentina's illegal operations, and she intends to eliminate them by trapping them in the warehouse. John, however, doesn't fully believe their theory. He starts questioning Bob about how he even ended up inside the warehouse. Bob admits that he can't remember anything. His memory is completely blank. Suddenly, Ava tries to escape by using her phasing ability to pass through the wall, but a powerful ultrasonic signal activates and forces her back. The building is sealed far more tightly than they expected. Meanwhile, at the party, Bucky again approaches Congressman Gary and suggests they work together to convince Mel to reveal the truth. Gary declines the idea and says that another plan is already in progress and that they simply need to wait. Back in the control room, Valentina watches the situation unfold. Realizing the people inside the warehouse are becoming a serious problem, she decides to activate the kill sequence, initiating a deadly lockdown inside the warehouse. The group realizes they have less than 2 minutes before the kill sequence triggers and the entire building explodes in flames. They quickly form a plan. They must destroy the power source that is blocking Ava from using her phasing ability. Everyone spreads out to search for it. Yelina eventually finds the power source, and John rushes over to help. Using his strength, he smashes the device and destroys it. With the signal disabled, Ava phases through the wall and unlocks the door from the outside just in time. The others rush out moments before the warehouse explodes behind them. Outside, as they recover from the narrow escape, Yelina briefly touches Bob's hand. Instantly, she experiences a disturbing vision. Memories from her past suddenly flood her mind. Somehow, Bob's touch is triggering buried memories inside her, suggesting that there is something very unusual about him. Meanwhile, Mel reports to Valentina that the group managed to escape. She also shows footage of them now cooperating with one another. When Valentina notices Bob in the video, she immediately becomes concerned and asks who he is. Mel admits she doesn't know but promises to investigate. Mel then contacts General Holt and asks him to intercept the group before they disappear. Unbeknownst to them, Alexei is nearby, disguised as a driver. From his position, he overhears their entire conversation. Back at the ruins of the warehouse, the group regathers. John again confronts Bob, demanding to know how he ended up there. Bob explains that he had been at a medical facility and suddenly woke up inside the warehouse with no idea how he got there. The group soon realizes something even more disturbing. Bob is the same person responsible for turning the doctors in the laboratory into shadow-like figures. Later, Yelina and Bob speak privately. During their conversation, Yelina discovers that Bob also carries a dark past, much like her own. Through this shared pain, the two begin to understand each other. While exploring the warehouse ruins further, John breaks through a wall and reveals a hidden chamber. To their shock, they discover they are deep underground inside a massive vertical shaft, and the only possible way out is by climbing up. John attempts to jump and climb, but cannot reach the top alone. Bob suggests that they work together. Despite being exhausted and injured, the group begins climbing upward together. Meanwhile, Mel uncovers Bob's real identity. His name is Robert Reynolds, and he was one of the original test subjects in the Sentry project. She reports this discovery to Valentina, who is shocked to learn that Bob is the only known survivor of the entire program. Back at the shaft, the group finally manages to reach the top. As they climb out, John grabs one of Yelina's weapons and helps pull the others up. But when he grabs Bob's hand, he suddenly experiences a flood of disturbing memories. Bob's darkest experiences transferred through physical contact. Once they reach the surface, they discover that military forces have surrounded the area. With no time to waste, they quickly create a plan. Ava will phase through the area and steal a nearby vehicle, while the others set up an explosion to distract the soldiers. Outside the facility, Valentina speaks with General Holt and instructs him that the mission should remain non-lethal because she wants at least one of them captured alive. Before the soldiers can act, however, an explosion erupts inside the base, drawing a squad of soldiers toward the blast. During the confusion, John and Yelina ambush several soldiers, knocking them unconscious and stealing their uniforms. Disguised as soldiers, they move toward the exit just as Ava returns with a car. The group quickly climbs into the vehicle and begins their escape. But when they reach the main gate, another checkpoint stops them. To give the others time, Bob suddenly grabs a weapon and steps out of the vehicle, deliberately drawing attention to himself. General Holt, unaware that Valentina has ordered the operation to remain non-lethal, gives the command to open fire. The soldiers begin shooting at Bob. Valentina desperately orders them to stop, but it is already too late. To that moment, something incredible happens. Bob suddenly awakens a hidden power and begins lifting into the air, flying without intending to. but he quickly loses control of the ability. He blacks out midair and crashes violently back down to the ground with enormous force. The impact creates a massive shockwave that spreads across the entire area, knocking soldiers to the ground and even flipping the car where Yelina, John, and Ava are trying to escape. A few moments after the crash, Yelina, John, Ava, and Bob slowly manage to stand up and begin walking away from the scene. As they move forward, Yelina explains what she has learned about the Sentry project. She reveals how test subjects were used and manipulated during the experiments. John adds that this is exactly why Valentina is currently under investigation. The project was never officially authorized, and many people were harmed because of it. Meanwhile, Valentina and her team recover Bob's unconscious body and transport him to an old, abandoned Avengers facility. She believes the location is secure and completely off the radar. As morning arrives, Yelina and the others continue walking along the road until Alexei suddenly pulls up beside them in his car. He tells them he rushed there as soon as he heard the coordinates and offers them a ride. During the drive, Alexei begins joking around and making big, dramatic suggestions. He says that the group should form their own team, something like the Thunderbolts. Everyone rolls their eyes at his idea, but the conversation lightens the mood slightly. Suddenly, a convoy of vehicles appears behind them and begins closing in. John warns Alexei to drive faster, but the car is already moving as fast as it can. Without any warning, the convoy opens fire on them. John leans out of the window with his shield, using it to protect the car from the incoming bullets. Ava attempts to use her powers, but the convoy deploys an ultrasonic weapon that interrupts her ability and stops her in the middle of phasing. Yelena fires back at the attackers, trying her best to keep them away. Just when the situation begins to look hopeless, Bucky suddenly arrives and ambushes the convoy. He destroys several of their vehicles and forces the remaining attackers off the road. The immediate threat is neutralized, but during the chaos their own car is knocked off the road as well. Meanwhile, back at the old Avengers facility, Valentina and Mel arrive with Bob. Mel expresses concern about keeping someone as unstable as Bob while he possesses such immense power. Valentina dismisses the concern and refuses to listen. Inside the facility, Valentina enters Bob's room and begins speaking with him. Bob calmly asks about Yelena and the others. Valentina lies and tells him that they are safe and being taken care of. However, when she brings up Bob's father, something inside him suddenly breaks. The entire building begins to shake as his anger rises to the surface. Trying to calm him down, Valentina reaches out and grabs his hand. The moment she touches him, she is pulled into a vision filled with her own dark memories. The disturbing images overwhelm her, and she stumbles backward, shaken and disturbed by what she has seen. Bob stops her from leaving the room and insists that he can control his powers. Although clearly unsettled, Valentina regains her composure, leaves the room, and tells Mel to arrange a press conference for the following morning. Meanwhile, Bucky gathers the group and explains that they are now important witnesses in the investigation against Valentina. However, Yelena and the others push back against the idea. They explain that Valentina didn't just manipulate them, she actually tried to have them killed. They also reveal everything they have learned about Bob and the truth behind Project Sentry. At first, Bucky is skeptical because the story sounds too extreme to believe, but soon he receives a phone call from Mel. She quietly confirms the entire story. Project Sentry was real, Bob was involved in it, and he is extremely unstable. She warns Bucky to bring backup before the situation spirals completely out of control. Realizing the seriousness of the threat, Bucky agrees to help. He tells the group they should come with him. Yelena hesitates briefly, but she eventually decides that she must confront Valentina and free Bob from her control. Meanwhile, back at the abandoned Avengers facility, Mel attempts to reason with Valentina again. She warns her that Bob is far too unstable to be used as a weapon. While speaking, Mel notices a device nearby that functions as Bob's kill switch. Ignoring Mel's concerns, Valentina enters Bob's room again. Bob is now awake and slowly learning to control his powers. At that same moment, Bucky and the others arrive at the facility. They crash through the entrance and quickly take down Valentina's guards in a fast and intense fight. Valentina interrupts the battle and calls them upstairs. When the group arrives, she confronts them and begins mocking each of their pasts. She ridicules Alexei, claiming that no one even remembers the Red Guardian anymore. When Bucky tries to attack her, Bob suddenly steps in and stops him using telekinetic force. Valentina proudly introduces Bob as the Sentry, calling him her ultimate weapon. She begins bragging about how she plans to use his power to reshape the world. Red Guardian angrily charges forward, but Bob strikes him with overwhelming strength and sends him flying backward. The rest of the group attacks, but Bob proves almost impossible to defeat. He displays incredible abilities, including super strength, telekinesis, a powerful invisible energy shield, and resistance to nearly every form of attack, even electricity. When Bucky attempts to strike him with his vibranium arm, Bob easily rips the arm off. The team is forced to retreat. Valentina orders Bob to finish them off, but Bob hesitates because he doesn't want to hurt them. Frustrated, Valentina reaches for the kill switch, but during the struggle it slips from her hand. As Bob lashes out at her in anger, Mel quickly grabs the kill switch and activates it. Bob immediately collapses. Believing he is dead, Valentina and Mel leave the room. However, inside the facility, Bob suddenly awakens again, now consumed by a darker force within him. His appearance changes as he transforms into a corrupted and shadowy version of himself. Outside, Yelina breaks down emotionally. She tells Alexei about her sister, about everything she has lost, and about the guilt she continues to carry. As she cries, something within her begins to heal. With renewed determination, she and Alexei prepare to fight again. Meanwhile, Bob, now transformed into the Dark Sentry, begins turning people into shadow-like versions of themselves. He destroys a helicopter and several nearby buildings as chaos spreads. The team rushes in to rescue civilians trapped under falling debris, but the darkness continues spreading through the city. Yelina runs directly into the shadow zone and is pulled inside. Within the darkness, she is overwhelmed by visions from her past trauma, guilt, and painful memories. Despite the emotional assault, she forces herself forward and eventually finds Bob trapped within the void. They begin talking. Bob explains that the darkness controlling him is not truly him, it is a separate force using his body. Yelena encourages him to fight against it, but suddenly dark creatures attack them. At that moment, Bucky and the others arrive and fight off the shadow creatures, giving Yelena and Bob a chance. Yelena suggests they return to the lab where Bob was originally created, believing that the source of the darkness may be there. When they arrive, the darkness attacks the others, but strangely avoids Bob. Bob confronts the shadow form directly and tries to destroy it, but he struggles because part of him cannot bring himself to do it. Then he sees his friends captured and suffering. At that moment, Bob finally gathers all his strength and begins fighting back with everything he has. As he punches the darkness, it begins consuming him, but he refuses to give up. Yelena and the others jump in, pull him back, and together they manage to stop the corruption. The city slowly returns to normal. The shadows disappear, and New York becomes safe again. Later, as the group regroups, John praises Bob for his bravery. However, Bob has no memory of what happened. The group then notices Valentina nearby and begins walking toward her, unaware that members of the press are waiting close by. Before anything else can happen, Valentina quickly steps forward and introduces them to the media as the new Avengers. And that's a wrap on today's recap. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a plot twist. Got a movie you want recapped? Drop it in the comments below. This is DX Movie Shorts. See you in the next one.